2020 has been one of the toughest years in recent memory. With the world on lockdown and everyone stuck indoors for a majority of the year, it's great having something that tied you over through the dark, sad, and lonely days. But enough about all the doom and gloom. I'm here today to talk about 10 of my favorite games of this year. Some of which actually came as a total surprise to me, and some made this year in particular feel that much less terrible. So without further ado, let's kick this off with number 10 on my list. As many of you may know, this game holds a very special place in gaming history. Not only because of the Isabelle and Doom Guy memes that flooded the internet just because the two games came out on the same day, but also because this game became a great way to enjoy the quarantine life. Yep, it's funny how everyone watched the world crumble around them as they escaped to this island filled with adorable and goofy animals. What I enjoyed the most was building up my island, creating this place, and watching it grow day by day. And on top of that, it was also some nice bonding for me and my girlfriend, because her, being the longtime Animal Crossing fanatic, showed me all the ropes. And as most Animal Crossing games tend to go, this one has died out majorly in popularity since its release earlier this year, but going back for holidays has been a nice treat every now and then. But as the years go on, I'm sure I'll have many more weeds growing in my flower beds and roaches in my bachelor pad, but I'll be able to cherish the memories that we made along the way. That's how that quote goes, right? I don't even know anymore. On to the next one. I don't have too much to say about this one because the original Persona 5 was amazing in its own right. And hey, I don't particularly like putting re-releases or remasters on my top 10 list, but I feel like this one is a bit different. Not only does this game add new characters and music, and let me say, God, do I love the music in this game. It's crazy how a 2020 game was such a huge inspiration for the music of the 1920s. It's almost like the guys back then literally said,
you know what, in 100 years there's going to be this game coming out called Persona 5, and we're going to make music just that's inspired from this game that's coming out in 100 years.
But anyways, the game adds a lot of new dialogue and content, not only within the palaces but also in the real world. Some would argue that some of the quality of life changes made to even the battle system might make this game feel a bit more easy, and I would agree with that. But if I'm also being 100% with y'all, I'm cool with having a few shortcuts in a game that I've basically beaten not even 5 years ago. Especially if that game is over 100 hours long and I just want to try and get through it as quickly as I possibly can and see the new stuff at the same time. For anyone who will be playing this game for the first time, I'd clearly recommend playing Royal just because it's the definitive version of this game and you can already get it to close for nothing on sale. And you really don't want to miss out on this masterpiece right here. This one is probably the biggest surprise of this entire list. I went into Bugsnax thinking only about the memes and how the game just looks silly. It's like if the Muppets went to an island filled with food that had googly eyes on it. But as a matter of fact, here's what the trailers and cute songs don't actually tell you about this game. The story is actually much deeper than I expected it to be. Not only does this game have a nice amount of lore to it, but it really brings together a lot of interesting themes using the different characters on the island. And I know just by looking at them, you might think that these characters are definitely made for children, but the looks are definitely deceiving. They might look like Muppets, but they come with a lot of issues and backstories that could teach even a 26-year-old man a few things. If you looked at Bugsnax the way I used to and you think it's just something stupid and for kids, I highly suggest you think twice about that because it is such a huge surprise to me. And yeah, of course, deep plots aside, it's still fun to catch the Bugsnax. There's so many different methods to do so, and it adds that extra bit of puzzle for the different snacks. Hell, I won't spoil them here, but there's even boss battles, boss snacks. Some of my favorites are actually bosses, but outside of those, you gotta love that Bunger. Just look at him. He's so cute, isn't he? I've already talked ad nauseam about this game in my review, which you should totally give a watch, but long story short, this game has such a great plot. When they said they wanted to give Breath of the Wild a decent prequel, I do have to admit this one falls a bit short of that when you get to the end of it, but the whole journey is definitely worth it. I'm still at this moment chipping away at the game bit by bit to unlock more areas of the map and complete challenges, so just from that, the game has a lot of content. And I'll admit the content might get a bit grindy after a while, but hey, it's to be expected from these Warriors games, am I right? As a matter of fact, just like I said that Koei Tecmo does a great job making these games feel like a legitimate part of their respective universe, I have another game from them to look forward to very soon. But if you're like me and you love Zelda or the Warriors games, or hell, even both, then this game is an absolute must play before Breath of the Wild 2 releases. Let me be clear, I've said it a few times that I don't believe that The Last of Us Part 2 was enough of a banger to be the #1 game of the year, and as you can see by my list, that definitely holds true. But even still, I never really understood all the hate that this game has gotten over the past year. Speaking just on the game itself and steering away from any issues within this studio, I think this game is beautifully done and takes quite a bit of a risk with its story. I'd argue that the risk was probably not done in the best of ways, which again you can watch my video on that game and get a better sense of my thoughts on it, but this game does things well and sets up a good plotline with some real characters and real emotion. Granted, I didn't exactly feel the emotion during that famous scene, but it carries through the rest of the situations in the game and adds quite a bit of a diverse perspective. Outside of those things, the game takes a lot of mechanics from the first one and doesn't really seem to change it up enough to be worth mentioning. Cinematically, however, Naughty Dog does what they do best to make this feel almost like a true Hollywood experience from beginning to end. And even though the themes aren't as good as the original game in my opinion, I think you'd be a fool to skip over this game and not check out what it has to offer. This was the game that everyone and their grandma was looking forward to for the longest time. Screw Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy VII Remake was the highly anticipated 2020 game for me. Seeing them dive back into this almost 2-decade-old story and bring it to life with these stunning graphics and an all-new battle system was exactly what got my wallet foaming at the mouth. All I had to see was that they ditched the traditional turn-based battles and went for a more hack-and-slash style, something that I'm very positive every single Kingdom Hearts fan was gushing over with glee. The only real issue I find with the game is how they split the whole game into parts, because damn, I really don't feel like waiting until the PS6 drops just to finish off the last part of this remake. But outside of that, I loved how they added extra touches like the multiple weapons for each character and how using them more often earned you better abilities. And let's not forget to mention how they brought these characters to life not only for the longtime fans to see these beloved characters looking a damn near human, but also for the Rule 34 and Blender communities to have a field day with Tifa and Jesse. And hell, Cloud too for that matter. You can't tell me you haven't seen some NSFW Cloud art at least 5 times in 2020, because if you say that you didn't, I know you're lying. On the other side of the fence for the Animal Crossing New Horizons release, we get the devilishly fast-paced murder spree of the game, Doom Eternal. And I'll admit it right now because I just finished playing the game very recently, but damn, is this game on another type of difficult. Not even saying the game is super tough, but even on normal difficulty, these demons are relentless. I found myself getting jumped by demons in almost every major battle room. Even when I had everything set up and under control, it always had to be some summoner demon, or God forbid, the guy with the shield and the dog. Holy shit, I never wanted to glory kill someone more than him in this entire game. All frustrations aside, however, this game was not only the perfect way to start this pandemic off, but also to end this year off for me too. Through all the hard times that 2020 has brought, I felt like Doom Eternal was there to hand me a BFG and help me blow off some steam. Even if the game does throw some real hard stuff at you here and there, you always feel encouraged to go back and try again because, let's face it, you're the Doomslayer. These demons may knock you down and rip you to shreds, but best believe you have every tool and weapon needed to slice them all to bite-sized chunks. And if that ain't the best metaphor for how we got through this year, I really don't know what is. Every now and then you need a little piece of representation in your games and movies and TV shows. For some people, The Last of Us Part 2 may have been their representing game of this year, but for me, that game definitely was Miles Morales. Not only was this game fun as hell and such a delight both story and gameplay wise from beginning to end, but it made a bit of an important statement in its own right. And hey, I get it, a lot of you may not vibe with what I'm saying here, but seeing a black guy as the face of a video game really makes me feel the exaggerated swagger of a black teen. I'm sorry, I just had to put that in there somewhere, it just made sense. Jokes aside though, it is such a cool feeling knowing that kids can grow up with characters and superheroes that look exactly like them. What helps even more is when something like this game comes out and not only does it represent, but it also is one of these staple launch games for a next-gen console. Obviously, if anyone has played the original SpiderMan PS4 game, you know exactly why I would recommend playing this. Because it's everything from that game with so so much more. Granted, I haven't gotten a platinum trophy on this game like I did with the original, but as soon as I'm ready to jump back into New Game Plus, best believe I'm going back for the 100% just because it's both an action-packed and also a very relaxing gaming experience. Hades wasn't a game I thought I would enjoy this much. I'm usually the odd one out when it comes to these roguelike games just because I enjoy that sense of progression whenever I play a game. I like knowing that my actions, whether it be for 5 minutes or 5 hours, will add up to me getting that much further to my goal. But with Hades, I found myself not only being spoiled with the progression system, but it's also given me a slightly different perspective on roguelikes in general. Going through these stages dozens of times and dying more and more just to go back, upgrade myself, and jump back into the fray was exactly what I wanted from a game like this. Actually, one game I remember playing years ago that reminds me of the progression in Hades is Rogue Legacy. The sense of going in, dying, and bringing these spoils of war back to incrementally get stronger is what kept me going through my journey. Not only that, but the wide array of gods and other characters, each with their own variety of dialogue that never seems to get old. One thing I'll never get used to is doing those rooms where you choose between one god or the other and literally watch as one of them tries to murder you for a whole minute.
Like, damn Zeus, a brother can't accept a gift from Auntie Aphrodite without getting a lightning bolt to the face?
The main reason why Helltaker is an honorable mention on my list is because it's a game I'd recommend anyone to play. You, yes you, the person watching this video, I'ma need you to play this just because. First off, it's a cute puzzle game that literally just starts off with a guy wanting to get some demon girl cheeks. And if I'm being honest with you, if that isn't the entire mood of 2020, then I don't know what is. The levels themselves are pretty short, and depending on how good you are at puzzle games, you might be able to finish this game in about 15 minutes. So you might ask me, why exactly would I recommend this game so much? What is it that made this game worthy of mentioning anyways? Well, to answer that question, I would turn to Twitter, where not only can you follow me on Twitter, wink wink, but also there was a ton of fan art regarding this game on Twitter when it first came out. And as a self-proclaimed connoisseur of the lewd anime bitches, I found myself really interested in checking out the game, and for a free short game, I was nothing short of delighted just to enjoy the demon girls, puzzles, and comedic dialogue as well. Now, while I do want to make a separate video talking about this game sometime soon, I do admit that it took me by surprise. Something I really missed about the Dragon Ball series was how campy and slice of life it was in the beginning. These days, Dragon Ball is all about the spectacle, and if Goku's hair isn't changing into a weird color of the rainbow, nobody bats an eye. I miss the simple nature of how this started out as a martial arts anime and slowly went into that supernatural territory over the years. This game, however, went to the extent of putting the spotlight on the side characters, now forgotten characters, or even dead characters from the series past. I mean, hell, when was the last time we had a mainline Dragon Ball game even acknowledge the existence of a character like Oolong? It's been way too long if you ask me. But even if it's only for the fun combat and extended story of the game, it definitely deserves an honorable mention for this year. Dreams is a game that not only pushed the limits of what a meme video game could even become, but it brought so many cool and inventive ideas that hopefully get translated into a lot of people making full-length games of their own. It's been a hot minute since I've popped Dreams into my system, but just remembering the amount of good content on there from the first few months, it has me super excited to go back after a year and catch up on some of these fan-made games. It's funny even mentioning fan-made games because, of course, you probably remember Nintendo copy striking the game because people made their own Mario Dreams fan games. And it kind of sucks too because a few of those games played pretty well for what the creators had to work with. And my favorite game series of all of them will always be the Wallace and Gromit cheese adventure games. Not only are those some good platforming fun, but the level of memes present in these levels is out of this world. Finally, we get to the best game of 2020, and if you're surprised by this, then you underestimate just how much of a weeb I actually am. This game doesn't just bring Japanese culture and style with it, but the sheer level of beauty in every frame is something that just might go down in gaming history at some point. Granted, when you take a deep look at the game, the textures and resolution isn't the most mind-blowing thing in the world, but the use of shadows and lighting goes further than most games like it. Even if you don't give a rat's ass about video games, but maybe you have an interest in photography and Semina? Semina? Even if you don't give a rat's ass about video games, but maybe you have an interest in photography and cinema, this game will blow you away with the kinds of things possible here. Me and my friends literally spent hours in the Legends mode just taking pictures with the photo mode. Yes, we actually paused an online game in the middle of a huge Mongol invasion to take some rad pics in front of the moon or get badass pics of us slicing through someone's throat. Oh wait, that reminds me, we should actually talk about how awesome it is that we even got the Legends mode in the first place. This is an online multiplayer mode that nobody knew about prior to the game's release. The devs really just dropped an announcement that it was coming out for free about 3 weeks before it was ready to try out, and damn, that is just such a great thing. In a world where so many games want to tell you these things long before they're ready and then have the audacity to sell it to you as an expansion or DLC, Sucker Punch said screw all that. Now, not only do I have to log in more hours into the story in order to finish up the main campaign, but I can hop right into some online matches and continue to level up my characters for hours upon hours of fun. Although I will add, some of those rounds last long AF. Take it from me, if you're tired and you say to your crew,
Y'all trying to do one more run for old time's sake?
know that you are playing a dangerous game. I fell asleep on the sticks at least 5 times during those long ass hour-and-a-half levels, and that shit was no joke. And that about wraps up my top 10 games of the year. If you are still here, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. I know this is a very long video, but if you did make it this far, don't forget to subscribe and also follow me on Twitter because I do have some projects planned for the near future going into 2021. And if things go as planned, we should be taking a deep dive into Dragon Ball Z Kakarot sometime next month. So again, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.